Before I get started with this Semen Retention Sunday episode here on the Regal Change channel, I want to say Happy Resurrection Day to everybody out there. Now, this topic I've been thinking about for a little while this morning, and I've been pondering and collecting my thoughts on where I wanted to go, because it seems to me as though a lot of people are just starved of masculine energy and masculine attention. And, we hear the toxic masculinity narrative all the time, and that's still going on, that's still happening, but a lot of people don't even know what it's like to be in their frame as a man. A lot of men, anyway. They don't know what it's like to actually be in your frame, and they don't even know what that really means. And partially it's because of the vocabulary. A lot of people are unaware of the vernaculars. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have people that completely just are oblivious to the potential powers that they'll have in this practice of semen retention. And what I've concluded is that a lot of men's masculinity is calling them. A lot of men's, ooh, that sun feels good. A lot of men's masculinity is calling them, but they're ignoring it. They're ignoring it for the sake of wanting to stay in sin. They're ignoring it because they would rather be stuck in loops of creation than to actually move in a way that would maximize potential growth. And sometimes growth looks like this. Okay, sometimes growth doesn't really have this straight up line, this straight upward trajectory. Sometimes growth is just simply about getting rid of things that are not working and letting go of relationships that are no longer applicable to your heightened state of being, because that's what a lot of this is when you're on semen retention, you offer people a heightened state of experience just interacting with them. And they don't really understand why. They don't really know why. And yet it seems as though when you're around them, you are giving them this elevated experience that women are addicted to sometimes. Like, women will go feral over you. And then the men will either be super jealous and envious, or they'll have a lot of admiration and respect for you. And the same kind of goes for women, right? But, they're going to be either feral around you and wanting to go crazy on you, or they're going to be stone cold and just try to destroy your essence and your masculinity. But the thing is that when you're on semen retention, the practice of it, you start to feel this inner force, and that's your masculinity. And a lot of men will ignore this because that force is driving you to do more things. That force is driving you to be less anxious about what you can't control. And part of you wants to hold on to that thing that is inside of you. I call it the inner neurotic bitch, but that voice inside of you that wants to hold on to things that you can't control. And we did the Legends of Stoicism class series in the Regal Change Academy recently, and we just finished that up last week. And one thing that we learned from the Stoics is that to focus on what you can't control is very much so useless. Man, you guys hear that bird? The birds have been chirping this morning. It's not too cold, but it's not really too warm either. Like, when the sun's out, it feels good, but man, when that sun's behind the cloud, it can be a little chillier there for a second. But the birds have been really active, and usually they're not this active until little later in the year, so I don't know what the deal is, but I'm enjoying it. But anyways, Where was I? Masculinity and the force inside the neurotic bitch. That's right. So the people that are listening to we can just call it the INB, okay? So you're listening to the INB more so than you are the MF, the masculine force. And if you listen more to this INB, you're going to start to ignore what the MF is saying inside of you. When you are not listening to that essence inside of you that wants to create, that wants to destroy, that wants to build, that wants to reshape, if you're not listening to that, then the chances of you becoming the person that God wants you to be is going to be very, very, very low. And people, the men that I'm talking to specifically, they will not understand what it means to have ambition, what it means to have drive. Because when your balls are full, you're operating like you're not a depleted Coomer, right? You are operating on a whole nother level that people around you, they might not even see it. You're operating on such a high vibrational frequency because everything does vibrate. Don't get it twisted. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, right? So, and everything can have a vibration. Sometimes you're going to be invisible to people that don't even know that this heightened state of being exists. And in some ways, I don't like even calling it a heightened state of being, because this is just who you are if you were everything you could be. And you're continuing to be everything you could be in the moment by moment, the more you retain. I'm approaching 3 years on this practice. And the profundity of it, anybody here that's taken psychedelics, it's like always being on a mild dose of psychedelics sometimes. That's what it feels like, but in a good way. It's not like a demonic or derogatory way, or like you're high on something. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that you're more creative, you're more in tune with your instincts. You can see things more clearly. Like the world, even though I was following Jesus and I had done a lot of spiritual development up until that point and maturation to that point, semen retention puts you on a kind of maturation process that I can't even explain to you properly unless you've experienced it yourself. Unless you've experienced some kind of aspect of what I'm talking about, and your intention on semen retention is to grow closer to God. It's not to get more finances, it's not to get more women, it's not to get more material things, even though these are byproducts of the practice. What you'll recognize is that, hello bird, what you'll recognize is that there will be people that will try to bring down your energy simply because they do recognize the heightened state. They do recognize that you're on another level. And they don't like that. They don't like it because they don't have the discipline to be where you are, and they don't have the discipline to try to become who God created you to be. These people do not have a connection with God. The people that are doing semen retention just to try to get women or more money or whatever, more material things, these are materialists. Materialists will try to mock you or make you doubt yourself. But you have to just trust in your experiences. You have to trust that what's happening and the glory that's of God that's being bestowed upon you, that you're able to recognize on semen retention, is true and real and tangible, that changes your life. That changes the way you see things. That changes the way that you see the world. And holy moly, another squirrel. Man, we've got wildlife all over the place over here. There was squirrels last night in the video that I made, and squirrels today. Oh man, it feels like it feels like revival. You know, I never understood why people think the new year is in January, when it's freaking cold and icy and slushy and nothing's alive, everything's still dead. Never made sense to me. This right here, what I'm seeing right now, this is life, you know, this is the revival. And I think it makes sense, you know, because the resurrection being on Easter, I mean, when people say Happy Easter, you know, I'll say Happy Easter, but I see it more as Resurrection Day than Easter, because it's not about the Easter bunnies. It's that's a fertility goddess ritual and sacrifice, all right? It's not about Jesus for a lot of people, and it's a pagan empty holiday. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. But the point is that the revival that you feel around this kind of springtime, that's what you're going to feel in your soul on semen retention. That's what it feels like. When I say that you feel like you're on psychedelics sometimes, like a mild form of psychedelics on semen retention, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying, is like, you just feel a newfound sense of revival. There's this invigorating aspect that encapsulates your virility, ferociousness, and your graciousness. And it makes you more grateful. It makes you more at ease with existence, even through the stress. I was on a one-on-one call last night, and one of the topics that we discussed was stress and how life just seems to be getting more stressful. And I've even seen a lot of men reach out to me on semen retention. You know, they're saying, I'm more stressed, I'm more angry, it's like, yeah, that's your masculinity calling you, man. Don't ignore that, because that is showing you where you're oppressed. That is showing you spiritually. You might not be physically oppressed, but spiritually oppressed. It's showing you what you actually want. And now you have to determine why those things are the cases or the situations that they are in. Why is that the case? Why is it that you're angry about this? Why? What makes you, what's your drive? What's your ambition? What do you want out of life? And you know, again, progress is not always going to be just straight up. Sometimes progress looks like this. You know, you dip down and then you go back up. You have to sacrifice to the world to some degree. Well, you have to make a sacrifice not to the world and not for the world, but in the world, okay? Semantics are important there. I don't want anybody to get confused with the vernacular. So it's very important and vital for you to recognize that in this heightened state, which is heightened for sure to most people, but you're going to be operating on a level and a vibration that many people are just not ready for. And some people are going to be invisible to it. Other people are going to recognize it and want to be around it. You have to choose carefully who you're going to be around. I don't just let any people into my life anymore. And some people get upset about that. Some people get, a little offended. And this is one of the other topics that we discussed in this one-on-one call I had last night. He was saying that he feels as though people are trying to just want help from him. And he feels like it makes life more stressful because it's hard to make friends that way. It's like, well, they don't have their inner child. That's what we have to recognize. And that's something that you can heal a lot, and you can start to lead more when you are actually on semen retention. You're able to lead your inner child because you're able to discipline your sexual fantasies and all of those things, you're able to discipline that. You're able to accept it because you're a man still, but you're not going to be acting on it, and you're not going to be trying to give into it because it just is, it feels good for the moment. A masculine man recognizes that those urges are going to happen sometimes, but if it's in his control, which his own urges are in his control, then that's what he's going to focus on. A lot of people will say, well, no, I can't control it. I'm addicted to corn. I'm addicted to sexual activity. I'm addicted to hooking up. Or it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're not addicted to the act. You're addicted to the feeling that it gives you. That's what you're addicted to. And you're addicted to the high, the dopamine high, or whatever it is. You're not addicted to the actual act. And the devil wants you to think that. The devil wants you to think that you're addicted to the act, because then that way you're stuck in the loop. You don't have control over it. No, that's what the devil wants you to think. The devil wants you to think that you don't have control over this. But you do have control. You do have control. And this is why I say, do not ignore that masculine calling. Do not ignore it. I've ignored it in the past. Guilty as charged. And you know, that's part of maturation, though. That's part of the maturing process. It's part of recognizing what it is that you're actually living for in this life, is to see that the proclivity that you have toward certain behaviors and modes of being is not always going to be because of the acts themselves. Like, think about gluttony, for example. I used to be very gluttonous, and I can still get that way if I let myself. Like, that's a daily thing I have to practice for myself, is I would say, how do I say this? It's the discipline of the urge. It's not the discipline of food, it's the discipline of the urge. And why am I having that to begin with? Because when I was really stressed out in the past, I would get very hungry. I would just want to consume myself. I would want to distract myself. The pleasure of the food was a distraction, but I was consuming because I didn't want to create. I was consuming because I didn't want to exert force into the world. I just wanted to consume. And if I did that, then I wouldn't have to face who I really am. I wouldn't have to face the powers that be in this world. I wouldn't have to face myself. And that was something that many people often struggle with. And it takes great courage to do that. It takes great courage to face who you are and what you're about. But what's even greater is to cultivate it into your being. What's even greater is to see yourself for who you truly are and accept that you're not really the person who you are meant to be just yet in the eyes of God. But that's okay, because you can start to develop yourself. You can start to see beyond that, and you can start to create a vision in how you're going to do that. Sometimes it's better to plan things out ahead of time. Sometimes it's better to plan out things week by week by week and have long-term goals and such, but you have to recognize that sometimes those things change day to day. like sometimes a masculine man lives in the moment, and so does a feminine woman, because the difference between an unhealed masculine man, let's say, because he's not masculine at that point if he's unhealed, but let's say the difference between an unhealed man and an unhealed woman is the unhealed woman often lives in anxiety. She often lives in the future. Whereas the man that is unhealed, he often lives in the past. And so when they live in the moment, the chemistry, the connection, that's why it's so important for, like, women, when women say their past doesn't matter, right? They know it matters. They know it matters, but they don't want to say that because that would mean that they have to legitimize the pain of the past, and they don't want to do that. And men, they don't want to work for the future. They'll say, oh, well, why even try to create something if it's going to take all this work, or if it's going to do all this stuff? Like, why even try? Well, that's what the devil wants you to think. That's what the devil wants you to think on both of those kinds of situations. You have to be mindful of this. You have to recognize if this is happening and why it's happening. Okay? So, when that masculine force inside, the MF, is calling to you, do not listen to the INB. Do not listen to the INB. Listen to the MF, the masculine force. All right? Now, with all that being said, I hope this video was useful and insightful for you. If you do want to join the Regal Change Academy and that group that we have, where we have weekly Bible study calls, Regal Assembly call, which we're going to have later today actually, and then a Maps of the Psyche class. We are also doing a whole bunch of new updates for all of the classes over the next week or two that we're going to be changing and switching up, and really just adding more value to it, because these are building blocks to your journey. I understand that this is not going to be the end all be all, and I'm not claiming that it is. I'm just saying that these are going to be the very specific steps to take so that you can get to where you need to be in this life, so that you can get to where you want to be in this life, where God wants you to be. If you do want to join also the Telegram community channel that we have, there's a link in the description box below, and you'll be able to check that out with daily insights. Those insights, though, everything gets deleted after 24 hours. All right, so now would be the time to get those insights and to just, be a part of the community still in a way. And I appreciate everybody moving from the YouTube platform over to X, Rumble, and Instagram. I'm definitely more focused on YouTube and X right now because I think that those are going to provide the best ROI and reach the most people for the kinds of consciousness, the level of consciousness that I'm trying to reach. What I've really loved about YouTube and the engagement here on YouTube is that I love being a co-creator with you guys. I love being able to have these kinds of topics, like with the one-on-one, for example. That I referred to from last night. Not only am I able to be in the moment with him, that guy there, then and there, and support him and help him and give him actionable items to go through, but also I can now take little bits of pieces, and everything is creation now. See, this is the difference between being a consumer and a prosumer, or a developer or a creator. When you're a consumer, nothing stimulates you. When you're a creator, everything is a form of creation now. Everything can inspire other forms of creation, and I think that's what's so cool. And that's another part of the masculine force that you don't need to ignore. Don't ignore that. Actually, don't ignore any part of the masculine force, but you guys get what I'm saying here. But anyways, guys, I appreciate everybody tuning in and liking and commenting, and I really enjoy engaging with you guys. So with all that being said, peace be with you all. Until next time.